Today I will show you a mystery thriller film called Shutter Island. US Marshals Teddy and Chuck are on a ferry boat going towards Shutter Island, an island with a mental hospital for the criminally insane. They are going to the island because a patient named Rachel escaped the day before. Teddy is very ill and so goes on the deck to talk to his partner who he is working with for the first time. He refers to Teddy as boss and at one point mentions that Teddy is a legend, so we know that Teddy is well known through the Marshal Service and that he is Chuck's superior. They get to the island. Teddy and Chuck meet the deputy warden, McPherson, who takes them into the mental hospital grounds. There are high walls that make it look like a prison and electrified wire on the perimeter. There is the A building for male patients, B building for women patients, and C building for the most dangerous patients. There is a brief argument when the deputy warden requires them to give up their firearms. Teddy says that they are federal agents, but warden insists. They reluctantly give them up. They meet Dr. Colley, who explains a bit about the facility and psychiatry, while Teddy still has a headache from the ferry trip. The doctor gives him some water and some aspirin. He explains that Rachel has escaped the night before, but says that it's impossible because she seems to have simply vanished through the walls. She is at Shutter Island because she drowned 3 of her children one by one. She refuses to accept that she has killed anyone, where officers are looking for the escaped Rachel. There is a lighthouse on the other side of the island that is gated off, and there are armed guards, which makes Teddy a little suspicious. Teddy makes it clear that his job is to interview staff and patients. He says he needs the personnel records of the staff, but the doctor kind of blows that off. They go to the patient living quarters and interview staff about the night that Rachel left. But do note that she had attended group therapy right before she went to her room and disappeared. During the meeting, it is revealed that she has a staff physician who conducted the meeting, a Dr. Shaheen. When Teddy asks where he is, Dr. Colley says he just left that morning on the ferry to go on a long-planned vacation. Teddy gets concerned that a dangerous mental patient has just escaped, there's a lockdown, and her doctor is allowed to just go on vacation. Things definitely look suspicious at this point. Teddy often has flashbacks about his time in World War II as a soldier, and he has conversations with himself in which his dead wife, Dolores, talks to him. Teddy remembers watching the German camp commander attempt suicide by shooting himself, but he only wounds himself, shooting himself in the side of his face. He tries to reach his gun again, but Teddy slides the gun away, watching him suffer before he bleeds to death. He explains that the things he saw while in Germany are the reason why he drinks so much. There is a Dr. Naring in the den, and he seems to be Dr. Colley's superior. Teddy takes an instant dislike to him when he notices a faint German accent, and the two verbally spar for a little bit, angry enough that Teddy breaks a glass, threatens to end the investigation in the morning. A storm hits the island, and it is clear the ferry will not arrive. Teddy was only bluffing the night before as he had no intention of leaving without investigation. They are unhelpful and all seem to be following a script because they say very similar things. In one interview, a woman asks Chuck for a glass of water, and when he leaves, she grabs Teddy's notebook and writes something very quickly and gives it back to him. He suspects that the last patient told him something while he was getting her water, and Teddy finally shows him the notebook and it says run. Teddy finally explains that he was trying to get assigned to an investigation of the mental hospital for some time. He says that a man named Lettuce was a maintenance worker at the apartment they lived in, and he was the one who set the fire that killed his wife. He got off on a technicality, but later was caught when he killed some other people. He was sent to the mental hospital here. But when Teddy looked into it, there was no paperwork at all for Lettuce, and he suspects that there is some greater conspiracy going on. And that maybe they arranged a disappearance of Rachel as an excuse to draw him here as a marshal to investigate where they could make both of them disappear. Teddy is not sure that's possible, but Chuck is pretty convincing, and suddenly, the door busts in and there is a car spotlight on them from the warden's car. He's been looking for them and takes them back to the hospital. They change their wet business suits and wear the staff white uniforms. They don't like the whites, but take them anyway and argue briefly about the investigation, and suddenly Teddy gets a migraine. Teddy has another dream with his wife, who tells him that Rachel is on the island and that he needs to help her. In a dream, Teddy is in Dr. Colley's den and Lettuce in his chair by the fire. The next day is kind of chaotic. Teddy and Chuck use this as an opportunity to go up to C building while no one is really paying attention to them. The place is really dark inside and they wander around. A patient runs from them and they give chase. Chuck falls behind and the patient grabs Teddy from behind and chokes him. Teddy gets away and beats the crap out of him until Chuck pulls him off. A guard chews out Teddy and has Chuck help him take the patient to the medical center, telling Teddy to take a walk and cool off. Teddy wanders around and finds a row of cells where a prisoner is sitting by himself and saying the name Lettuce. When Teddy demands the prisoner look at him, he realizes it is George, the guy who was a former patient here who told him about what was going on at Shutter Island. His face is badly beaten. Teddy can't believe he is back here, and George is yelling at him that it's all about Lettuce, isn't it? He tells Teddy that the only way he can save George is to forget his wife and Lettuce and focus on what is going on here. Teddy looks guilty when he tells him it is his fault that George is back here because he kept inquiring about Lettuce. He says that the lighthouse is where they do a lot of their experiments on people who are troublemakers. Further discussion shows Teddy that he has never worked with Chuck before. Teddy finally catches up with Chuck and they head towards the office, and Chuck says he found Lettuce's file, but there was only his commitment paper in the file which he tries to show Teddy, but he won't look at it now as he intends on reaching the lighthouse. Teddy is acting suspicious of Chuck when he tries to talk him out of going to the lighthouse. They arrive at the cliffs over the ocean and realize they are too far south of the lighthouse. Again, Chuck tries to talk him out of it because it's too dangerous. They argue some more and Teddy tells him he is going by himself. Teddy gets near the lighthouse but finds that it is late enough in the day that the tide has cut off the lighthouse from the island. He gives up and goes back to where Chuck is to tell him they'll try later, but all he sees there is a burning cigarette on the edge of the cliff. He looks over and sees Chuck at the bottom of the cliff with waves crashing over him. Shocked, Teddy climbs down the cliff but doesn't see Chuck at the bottom. He sees a cave on the side of the cliff with a fire burning inside. When he reaches the cave, he sees a woman with a knife. They begin talking and she says she is Rachel and that she was a doctor at the hospital who found out too much and they committed her and made up a story that she killed her kids. The other Rachel must be an imposter they used to fool Teddy and Chuck. She says there is a secret government program to test a number of new drugs on the patients. She then warns Teddy that they will not let him leave. They will make a story that he went crazy. She asks him if he had a serious trauma and says that they will use that to say that he cracked. She also asks him if he has taken any medication. She also questions whether Chuck is even a marshal, that he is probably a government agent sent to go with him to the island. When Teddy gets back to the road, he sees a jeep pull up with the warden. The warden takes him back to the facility and they have a really weird conversation. The warden tells him that men like them know how to use violence and use it well. Teddy says he'll be leaving and he asks if the doctor has seen Chuck, his partner. Dr. Colley says he came to the island alone and there was no partner. Teddy realizes that they are already starting to put their plan in action by insisting there was no Chuck. He sees his wife, who tells him to leave the island and don't go to the lighthouse. She says the lighthouse will destroy him. He decides to blow up Dr. Colley's car to create a diversion so he can sneak down to the lighthouse. As he moves away from the car, he sees his wife and the little girl in front of the car. It explodes around them, but they aren't burned at all. He swims over to the lighthouse and sneaks up behind a guard and takes his rifle. He runs up the stairs of the lighthouse to the top, checking each room, but finding no operating rooms for surgical experiments. He gets to the top and finds Dr. Colley sitting behind a desk. Teddy holds the rifle on him while he is talking. The doctor tells him there are no bullets in the rifle and asks him if he killed the guard below. Teddy says no, but the doctor calls down anyway to tell the people below to attend to the guard before they come up. Teddy sees his gun from the beginning of the movie on the doctor's desk. Dr. Colley tells Teddy that he is a patient at the hospital and has been for 2 years. Teddy doesn't believe him and says that he is a US Marshal. The doctor says he was one, but after his breakdown 2 years ago he was sent here. He broke down when his kids were killed. Teddy says he doesn't have any kids. Doctor says that they have been trying to use the new drug therapy to help him and have been trying to do everything they could to treat him. He tells him that he has been one of the most dangerous patients they have had. The whole last couple of days were an attempt to do a massive role play to get him to finally realize the truth. He calls in Dr. Sheehan, the doctor from the beginning, who went on vacation right after Rachel disappeared. The door opens, and it is Chuck. He is a psychiatrist who agreed to play along with Teddy's fantasy and to keep tabs on him. Dr. Colley tells Teddy that his real name is Lettuce, was a fellow patient who Teddy attacked a few days before, and that was why he had a beaten up look. Teddy denies this, but the doctor shows him the transcript of what George said to him in the cell earlier. He tells Teddy that the reason why he beat up George was that George called him by his real name. Teddy grabs his gun from the table and shoots Dr. Colley, whose blood splashes against the wall. The next second, there is no blood and the doctor tells him that his gun was a toy gun they gave him when they began the role play. We finally see a flashback where Teddy, who is actually Lettuce, comes home to his cottage, but his wife is acting strangely. He asks where the kids are and she says they are at school. He says it's Saturday and she smiles and says they're in her school and looks towards the lake. Horrified, Teddy runs down to the lake and sees his 3 children face down in the lake. He scoops them all up, crying uncontrollably and places them on the ground. Then his wife hugs him and says they should put the kids at the dining table and have dinner. Teddy looks down and realizes that he just shot his wife. She is laying there with a lot of blood on her and then she dies. Teddy now realizes that he has a choice between accepting his truth or continuing to deny it. The doctor makes it clear that if he can't accept the truth, then Dr. Colley won't be able to stop the other doctors from ordering that he be lobotomized. He makes Teddy admit that he blamed himself for not realizing earlier that his wife had trouble. That he feels responsible for killing his kids because he didn't get her help when she needed it. He created a fantasy world where he never killed his wife and he never had a breakdown. Next day, he and Chuck are sitting. He asks Chuck what their next move is in trying to get out of the island. He shows as if he hasn't still accepted reality and still thinks he is still a US Marshal. Teddy asks Chuck whether it's better to live as a monster or die a good man. He stands up and willingly goes with the men coming his way, as he would rather choose to continue his fantasy than accept the horrors of his reality. Alternatively, he has accepted his reality, but still cannot live with the horrors of it. However, he still can't live with his memories, so he knowingly forces the doctors to take the decision for physical intervention, knowing that he will no longer have to live with his memories as a compliant zombie, thus ending his life as a good man. Kindly subscribe to the channel for more such videos and leave a like for more movie reviews.